Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm commentating after a long time, but we are in the Prague Masters game already start हो चुका है. We are seeing Maghsoodloo playing live against Gukesh, and very exciting games today. चारों game बाकी है. I'm hoping somehow Gukesh can make a comeback, but guys, do like the stream so that more people can join in. This is round number 7. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Everything is good. Let's go. So actually, it feels like Gukesh just made a mistake. Gukesh played this move knight to c5, and the engine really likes this position for white now. Why is this the case? Because if we just go very quickly from the beginning, because I'm sure you guys are curious what opening it was. So it started with the Berlin knight f6, which Gukesh played. d3, bishop takes c6, a very typical idea to give up the bishop to double black spawns. Castles, knight d7 to protect the e5 pawn. Knight d2, developing castles. a4, so far it was very logical. White was gaining space on the queen side. Rook e8 was logical. Knight c4, a5, bishop e3, trying to exchange. If you take, maybe he can take with the f pawn. Gukesh says no. Bishop d2 back, b6, h3. Prophylactic move. Bishop takes, knight takes. Wow. Knight f8, and now queen to h5 played by Maghsoodloo, threatening the pawn on e5. Queen f6, protecting it. King to h2. Man, Maghsoodloo has been making very nice prophylactic moves. Maybe preparing g3, f4 now, protecting the h3 pawn. g6, queen h6 back. And maybe now Gukesh had to play this move, queen to f4. Guys, he had to play this move, queen to f4, and trade back on f4 with the e pawn. Instead, he went back queen g7, queen back. I'm just trying to get you guys to the live position. Knight e6, g3, played by Maghsoodloo, preparing this move f4, knight c5, knight e3, and this is the live position. This is the live position, guys. And Maghsoodloo is ready to play this move pawn to f4 next. You don't care about the b2 pawn. So we have two Indian, right? We have Gukesh, who is really struggling. He's on 1.5 points right now. And the other Indian who's playing is Arvind, who is the defending champion, and we'll also take a look at his game. But I think this is an important moment in Gukesh's game. This is a very important moment in Gukesh's game. And the thing is, I've experienced this myself. When you're having a difficult event, after let's say the first loss, it really hurts you. The second loss is also like, very hard to digest. But after a point, what happens that you kind of start to think that you kind of get used to it in some ways. And I really hope that this is not going to happen with Gukesh, because if that happens, you kind of start losing the confidence. So Gukesh really needs to start with a blank slate and play this tournament as if 3 more rounds are remaining. But look at his facial expressions. He's like, you can see he was not happy. He's like, वापस defend करना पड़ेगा क्या? Yeah, actually from his facial expressions, I'm not very enthusiastic about his chances. Best wishes to Indian. Thank you. Hello, Himang Bhai. Hello, guys. Yeah, so Gukesh is thinking in this position. The problem is that the engine recommends this move g5, but yeah, like after g5, the f5 square becomes so weak, and I guess White is going to place his queen on h5, and at some point, if this knight on d2 can land to f5, strategically it's going to be very difficult for black. So Gukesh is thinking after knight e3. Let's quickly check on Arvind to see how he is doing, if we can get his camera as well. Arvind is playing against Yakubboev Nodirbek, and he's down to 22 minutes. Like we started this the stream a little late, but I was not expecting Arvind to be down to 22 minutes because it was a normal Nachdorf opening. E5, knight b3. I mean, until here, of course, they know everything. They know queen d2 as well. They know g4. So within the next four moves, Arvind thought for 1 hour and 12 minutes. Wow. b5, knight king b1, a3 to prevent moves like b4 is a very typical idea. Knight b6, knight a5 to prevent knight c4. Rook c8, and Arvind has still not made a move. Guys, I am in Portland right now. I am back. I played a tournament in St. Louis Masters, and now I'm back in Portland for some time. And I'm hoping that uh, the next time I can travel will be for the candidates. But let's see, because the geopolitical situation is not the easiest right now. Okay, he goes Queen f2. Arvind has played Queen to f2, and of course he's threatening to take the knight on b6. Mm, if knight c4, he just wants to take, take. And the most ideal situation for us, guys, would be if we can somehow just kick this knight away from f6 and plonk our knight on d5. This is going to be the ideal situation. So after queen f2, this is the strategic problem that Arvind is posing on Yakubboev. Very often, the knight on b6 controls the square on d5. So you just want to reinforce the defense for that knight by playing this move knight f to d7. This is the move that I'm expecting Yakubboev to play. So queen f. Oh, a lot of moves happened. No, not yet, right? Not yet, I guess. Um, I will just try to go to the, yeah, queen f2, and this is the position where Yakubboev is still thinking, what are their expressions? Okay, Arvind is very focused, and Yakubboev was also not having the best tournament, wants to kind of use this opportunity to complicate the game. Oh, and Hans Schmidt, Unfolding Stone becomes the booster of Indian chess. Let's go. Let's go, guys. Bolo Zaban asks, like, in these times of positions, I panic so much. You, I mean, it's completely understandable actually, because black is kind of putting a lot of pieces on the queen side, but you need to take it one move at a time, right? You first need to understand what is your goal. So now that we understood that we kind of somehow want to get control of that d5 square, so once you have an idea which you kind of what is like is your dream, then it kind of becomes easy to find moves in that direction. And also, you should obviously first try to ask yourself, what does my opponent want? And here it was clear he wanted to move like b4, so this move a3 became logical. Yeah, no, Arvind is very, very focused right now, guys. Arvind really wants to try to, make a push for the top three spots in the final three rounds. So Arvind has a very decent position here. Did Gukesh make a move? Let's go back to his board. Um, I don't think he has made a move yet. Gukesh has not made a move yet. So maybe, guys, we can take this opportunity to go to the challengers section where we have Divya and Ganguly playing. So I'll try to go to Divya's board right now. And if we can get Divya's camera, yes, here we have it. Divya is the best performing Indian so far in this whole tournament. And look at the last move by Bear. Knight to A1. Wow. And in the opening, I mean, in general, guys, do you like when I go through the opening or do you want me to stick to the live position? Because Divya was very well prepared in the opening, and with the black pieces, she has kind of neutralized Bier, who's a very strong junior from Denmark. So knight a1, the idea of white, like what white is trying to play against, is that the pawn on c7 is a backward pawn, right? Because the pawn on d4 is kind of controlling it. So this is what white is playing towards. However, black can very quickly get some counterplay. Like let's say black can play something like b4, maybe even consider a move like b3 at some point to just put pressure on the knight on a1. Please explain the opening. Yes, so let's go for it because even I am very curious to see how Divya played, and maybe I'll flip the board so that we can see the game through Divya's perspective. So we started with the Raya Lopez opening, Spanish. Knight takes e4. This is called as the open Spanish. d4. You generally don't want to take the pawn on d4 here because rook e1. And the point is that you're very underdeveloped. You're highly underdeveloped and taking the pawn on d4 is not going to be worth it. Just to quickly show what happens after d5, knight d4. This is the pin. At some point, f3 is coming in and white just has a huge advantage. So after d4, takes away the bishop on a4, bishop b3, d5, just cementing the knight on e4 and also opening up our bishop. So d5, bishop e6. This is a very standard Spanish position. c3, bishop e7, bishop c2. The idea is that white wants to challenge the most active piece of black right now, which is the knight on e4. And here Divya plays a very nice move. Look, when the bishop was on b3, it was hitting the pawn on d5. As soon as the bishop on c2 moves, what's one move that we can play now that was not possible before? Black to play, guys. What do you think Divya played in this position? This was her preparation. Bishop f5 makes sense that you can move the bishop here. That's one idea. But then maybe you kind of put your bishop in this pin. So many people saying bishop f5, but finally, it just me finds it. Exactly. Bishop to g4. Pinning the knight on f3, threatening something like knight to e5, and we don't have to worry about the pawn on d5. Well done. Exactly, Mr. Pradeep Balaji, and now Nifa, many people finding it bishop g4. That was played. Queen e1, getting rid of the spin, and it kind of allows bishop f3. But the thing is, because the black king has not castled yet, white has this bishop pair and open position. I think white gets enough compensation for doubling these pawns on f2 and f3. So she comes back knight c5, knight d2, and knight e6. I really love this maneuver. She brings her knight back to e6. At some point, she can prepare d4. The knight can jump into f4 at some point. Queen e2, castles, rook e1, queen d7. Just quickly breezing through these starting moves. Knight f4. By the way, look at Divya's clock. She has 92 minutes. All of this was her home preparation. Queen e3. And it feels like two pieces of yours are attacked at once, but bishop f5. this was the tactical reason with which Divya protected her pieces. क्या crazy preparation है यार दिव्या का. I think because she's playing in the candidates, this is an excellent test to see how well prepared she is against the top players, and she has been displaying some high quality preparation. If you take the knight on f4, you lose the bishop on c2. So bear chops, chop chop, knight b3, and knight back to e6. Because we've exchanged the light squared bishops. I love talking about exchanges. Now white is left with this dark squared bishop on c1. But because there is this pawn on e5, it's clear that the white bishop does not have as much mobility. So black is happy with this trade, bishop d2 and queen c2. What a sneaky move by Divya. Divya jumps in with her queen to c2 and invading in white's territory, threatening the pawn on b2. Rook e2. I guess if you take the pawn on b2, your queen can get trapped after bishop c1. Wow. So you cannot take the pawn. So Divya pushes a5 to push a4. Knight d4. Chop chop. Bishop g5. Queen f3. Queen back to g6. Divya is playing extremely well. Queen takes g5. If you take the pawn on d5, guys, very quickly. Why is queen takes d5 a huge mistake? Black to play and get a big advantage. And guys, do like the stream so that more people can join in the last 3 rounds. So we can have some fun. I'll join for all the last 3 games. So the more people are with us, ज़्यादा मजा आएगा. Knight f4, exactly. Gokul, Guki Reza, Akshata, Akshit Jori, boom, Arjav Jain. Knight f4, bam. And now you're hitting the rook, the queen. Queen takes g2 is a problem. So rook d1 played by Bear, protecting the pawn on d4 since a4 could have been a problem. Divya kicks the knight away, knight a1, and she does play b4. Knight c2, and we are now finally live with the players. And I don't see Divya has any problems with her position. She can play a move like rook b8, threaten b. By the way, can she go b3 immediatamente? Because if you take twice on b3, knight f4 again is going to be a problem. Threatening mate and knight takes e2. So after b3 takes, if you go knight e3, yeah, but this looks a bit unpleasant for blackmail because the pawn on d5 is hanging and maybe knight f5 can come in. So, okay, maybe not b3 immediately. Maybe we can just play a move like rook b8 and keep everything under control. Okay, so Divya needs to be slightly careful maybe because white is trying to go knight e3, g3, h4, but I think overall her position is very, very good. Okay, so Divya doing well. Let's quickly check on the final Indian board. Surya, who's playing against Zhu Zinner. And if we can get that camera as well, and yes, we have it. Amazing. And Surya actually is in some slight trouble. Guys, Zhu Zinner is such a strong player from China. I mean, she has evolved into one of the top female players in the whole world right now. She has a rating of 2578 and she's actually struggling in this tournament quite a lot. But with the black pieces, she's now trying to go rook g6, potentially even bring the other rook to e6 and g6. And I'm a bit scared for Surya's position right now. Generally, white wants to go for this minority attack with pawn to b5, and we say it's minority. Oh, and she does go for rook g6 as I was explaining the minority attack. So Surya needs to be slightly careful. I mean, it's still quite okay. Like maybe he should try to just exchange these knights on e4 and c5 and try to pull the brakes. I think that might not be a bad idea for Surya. So Surya can pull the brakes, and I think he should. But if he keeps on playing, then I do see some strategic trouble for him. And he does go for it. Of course, Surya, very, very experienced. He realizes that his king is in some small problems. So he's trying to bail out with knight c5. What about Gukesh's game, guys? Should we go back to see how he's doing? Because we have some moves here. Oh la la. After queen h4, knight e6, g3, Gukesh is like, I'm not going to wait for you to slowly torture me with f4, even g4, g5. He goes for f5 himself. And after ef5, he takes with the bishop on f5. And I have to be honest with you, I do not like this position at all for black. We are obviously all hoping that Gukesh does well. It's clear, guys. We don't want to see the current world champion struggling so much, but this is a tough tournament. This is not an easy tournament. And here Maghsoodloo can simply bring his rook from a1 to e1, and the problem is that the pawn on e5 is just going to be a long-term weakness. Black also has these doubled pawns on c7 and c6, so the pawn structure is very good for white. White can obviously always just play a move like b3 to protect this, but don't forget that the queen is also protecting this pawn. So I'm expecting rook a1 to be played by him rather quickly. Let's see the facial expressions of both these players. I mean, it's hard to say how Gukesh is feeling right now. He seems focused, but is he confident about his position? That's what I'm trying to figure out. And Maghsoodloo for sure is like, okay, I have a great chance. I mean, you don't always get an opportunity to win, to say that I have beaten the world champion in chess. And Maghsoodloo is for sure going to pounce on this opportunity. And yes, he brings the rook from a1 to e1. He does it. That was the best move in the position. And Gukesh, and you can see a lot of players are watching this game. Rook a1 played. Let me just update that move on the live board. Yes, here I did it. And Maghsoodloo gets up from his chair. No, I mean, I think Maghsoodloo knows this. He has a fantastic position. By the way, in this tournament, the leader is actually a very surprising player for many of you, many of us. It's Jorden van Foreest, who is playing one of the best tournaments of his life here. He's on +3. He's on +3. He's playing against Abdusattorov Nodirbek, and the winner of that match might as well just become the winner of this whole tournament, because Jordan is on 4.5 out of 6. Abdusattorov is on 4 out of 6. So the winner will take the sole lead. So after this game, we'll definitely check out what's happening between the two leaders. People are like, Jordan is not surprising. Yes, it's true. I mean, he's extremely strong. But when Gukesh is playing, Vincent is playing, you kind of expect these players to, be at least there in the fight for that. But here it's just clearly Jordan taking over this tournament. And by the way, 30 minutes for Gukesh, 32 minutes for Maghsoodloo. So they are approaching that rapid section of the game. He's focused here. But what can he do, guys? What can he? I mean, he's playing against Maghsoodloo. He has obviously lost the last two games in a row. He wants to, make a comeback. But if you try to play aggressively with black against someone like Maghsoodloo, it can backfire. And then if it backfires and and then it doesn't go your way, then you're stuck in an even bigger hole. So it's not so easy actually being in Gukesh's shoes right now. Okay, let's also while Gukesh is thinking, quickly check on Arvind, because that was the other game that we were focusing on in the Masters group, and he does go for knight f d7. Yakubboev reinforces the support of the knight on b6, which indirectly means that he controls the d5 square as well. Yakubboev has a decent position, but it's the time. Arvind needs to speed up now. 16 minutes. And can you guys just once remind me, because I was not following this very closely, but there is 30 minutes increment, right? After move 40. So that would mean that for the next 25 moves, Arvind only has 16 minutes. He needs to speed up. Yeah, queen d2, and he's trying to find. He goes back queen d2. 1 second. Did the queen d2 pe tha? So queen goes to f2. Yakubboev goes back knight f d7, and Arvind comes back queen to d2. So is this some sort of a draw offer if Yakubboev goes back knight f6? Because it's for sure the same position that will repeat, and maybe considering the time situation, not the best idea. And yes, thanks a lot for confirming that there is this 30-minute increment, but it's still 24 moves away. So to play with just 16 minutes on your clock in this complicated game is not easy. Let's see if Yakubboev repeats. Let's see if it looks like he is going to repeat in this position. He's thinking. Did you see that he quickly glanced over Arvind's expressions to see, like, Arvind, bhai, draw, or do you have any other intentions in your mind? Because very often what white wants to do is, like, you just check if your opponent wants to make a draw. And once you get that information, with that information, you play a new move, and you at least know that your opponent does not want to play this complicated position. So this could be some sort of a psychological idea by Arvind. Let's see what Yakubboev does. He's looking once at the other games to see perhaps if it affects anything in the standings. Oh, Gukesh made a move. Okay, so this position, I would sum that it's complicated. It's possible that the game repeats in a draw. Yakubboev is thinking, let's go to Gukesh's game. He goes bishop e6. He goes bishop to e6, but what does this move achieve? Does he want to go bishop to d5? But that would allow knight g4. So I guess he just did not want white to capture on f5 and then rook e2, rook e1 double up and gang up on the pawn on e5. That why he simply goes back bishop to e6. And this is the live position. Maghsoodloo can play this move knight to g4 here, threatening the pawn on e5, threatening knight f6 check, which would force Gukesh to capture on g4. And after queen takes g4, this is going to be a very difficult position for Gukesh to save. Maybe he will try to play a move like e4 to change the character of the position, give up the central pawn to capture the pawn on b2. Because what happens is that if you play and try to defend this position in a passive manner, you just don't have any active counterplay. And for humans, without active counterplay, it's very difficult to just sit there and allow your opponent to keep on improving his position. So maybe this is not a bad idea from Gukesh. Maybe it's a decent idea. Oh, Rakshit Bhai says that a fun fact is that Jordan has leapfrogged Prague in live ratings and is now rated 2744. I mean, yeah, if he wins this game, he might even uh, you know go ahead of Arjun, and he might even enter the world top 10. I mean, Jordan has been having one of the best years uh, in his life. Oh, by the way, we have a result. We have a result that Hans Niemann drew his game against David Navara, who was doing very, very well. Let's actually quickly look at the game between Jordan van Foreest and Nodirbek. What a crazy position! What a position! White has one, two, three, six pawns. Jordan has an extra piece, so it's basically कि ये bishop के लिए White has four pawns. White pushes b4, if I see correctly, and I guess that this game is going to end in a draw. But it's a lot of pawns on the queen side. I mean, if White gets to play a4, b4, and a5, for sure White is having a huge advantage. But because the f2 pawn is slightly weak, I think that this game is going to most likely end in a draw, which is a great result for Jordan because he kind of keeps Nordirbek at bay. And with 2 rounds to go, he's still going to be the sole leader. We'll play the next game with White. So Jordan seems to have very good chances to win this tournament. Yeah, this is what I think that Jordan will have good chances to win. He'll try to the put some pressure on this pawn on f2, but it can be annoying to be honest because if this pawn, like let's say even after trading the queens, White pushes b6. Yeah, maybe practically I would choose White. So slight practical problems for Jordan as he tries to hold this. And let's go back to Gukesh's game. And after bishop e6, Maghsoodloo is still thinking. If we can get Gukesh's camera as well. Um, yes, here we have. Oh, look at Maghsoodloo. Hand in his head. He, he's either super happy or he's like, I have so many options to play in this position. I don't know which one to choose. But guys, look at Gukesh. Just look at his expressions here. And I'm going to flip the board actually because we have been looking this position with Maghsoodloo's perspective and it just looks so good. But now that I've flipped the board, just we kind of realize what Gukesh is going through. The position looked so good from White, but now that I switched the board, I can kind of relate to his expressions here. I just don't have any active counterplay. 26 minutes to go. So what he needs to hope for here is that somehow he just needs to put Maghsoodloo in time pressure and create some complications. Okay, Maghsoodloo just plays b3 if I'm not wrong. He just played b3 and he's just passing the baton over to Gukesh and asking him, okay, what's your next move? And this is not an easy question for Gukesh to answer. Oh, people are saying they want to quickly check Arvind's game as well. Rook d8, rook d4. Okay, I like that idea to try and get your rook into d4. But I think the main problem is that white has these two strong options. f4 is one and knight g4 is the other one. So let's say knight g4, you take. And now if you play a move like rook d4, this is a great question to ask you guys. What can white do? Where will the queen go back? Will it go to f3? Will it go back to d1? Queen g5 is also an option. Where will the queen go? Okay, Bobby Fischer does not fall for my for my trick. Yes, you're absolutely right. Spark finds it. Mana Hore falls in my trap. Rohan Garg finds it. Hitansh finds it exactly. Queen takes d4. Queen sacrifice. If you take with the pawn, you lose the rook on e8, you lose two rooks, and after king f7, rook e1, the black king is almost going to get checkmated as the other rook is trying to jump into e7, and uh, things look quite bleak for black there. So b3, white has a stable advantage, lot of games going on. We'll quickly check Arvind's game, any move there, and look at this, Yakubboev does not repeat. Yakubboev goes back rook to b8. He did have the opportunity to go knight of d7 and repeat. Instead, I think he has kind of taken the decision that he needs to play for a win in this game against Arvind, who's down to 16 minutes. And from the body language, it doesn't seem like he's going to make a move anytime soon. Can he just chop the knight on b6? That's my question. Because if you exchange the queens, I mean, is white ever risking anything here? Because he can always just go h4, g5 and try to go knight d5 and bail out. I mean, I wouldn't say bail out, but kind of try to play this position. So the question is after bishop b6, if rook b6, then knight d5 takes, takes, and I guess this position, bishop d7, black has two bishops, but white can perhaps try to go bishop d3, bishop f5, and then plonk the knight on c6. So I think that bishop b6 is the move. Yeah, bishop b6 I think is the best move here. So I think bishop b6 is what I'm hoping Arvind plays. Okay, so Arvind is thinking, maybe quickly check on Divya. Um, oh, we have some moves here actually in Divya's game. After knight c2, she did play b3. b3 takes. The point is that if you take, there is knight f4 as we saw. So he plays knight b4 and Divya goes rook a4, hitting the knight, knight c6, rook a6. Ah, they're repeating. Guys, Divya has the option of making a draw here if she plays rook a6. Rook a6. Uh, Nodirbek, is it possible to? I am hearing some voice. Yeah, now it's better. Yeah. Um. So actually, in this position, Divya can just play the move rook to a6, and she can agree to a draw. But Divya is maybe getting ambitious here. Maybe Divya wants to play rook to c4. And if rook c4, the only move for Bear is to play h4, queen h4, queen d5, rook c2. I think Divya should play. Guys, I think Divya might want to play in this position. If you take rook c1, I mean, Divya is not risking anything. So maybe Divya is considering that she wants to keep playing with the black pieces against Bear. I mean, even a draw is a good result for her, but I mean, okay, she has her hand in her head. She's like, okay, should I make a draw or Should I fight more? Okay, so Divya is making this decision. Maybe we can keep Divya's camera and quickly check what's happening on Gukesh's board, because I do think there was a move played by him and Gukesh played the move rook to f8. He played rook f8. I think he's trying to put some pressure on the f2 pawn. Guys, क्या लग रहा है? Will Gukesh save this? Because saving this is also a very good result for him. I don't think Gukesh has any chances to win this position right now, but saving this will also be big. Do you think he will? Okay, ABCD says yes, he's giving some good energy to Gukesh who's struggling. Guys, you need to give Gukesh some positive energy. He's having a tough tournament. Instead of questioning his ability and questioning his form, we need to send positive energy towards him. This is very important when an athlete is going through a difficult phase, which every athlete at the top goes through. We need to send positive energy so that he can recover from this difficult phase. Let's go, Gukesh. Rook f8, one move at a time. Now putting pressure here, needs to bring the other rook to e8. He has this position now, so we can only try to, we can only try to save this position from this point onwards. Maghsoodloo has 23 minutes. Guys, the clock is ticking down. He needs to get back in a good mindset. Because if he doesn't believe that he can save this, then it's never going to be possible. So Gukesh needs to have this strong belief. Maghsoodloo is thinking where to go with his knight, to g4 or to e4. If you go knight e4, maybe I will not trade. Maybe I'll come back with my knight on d7. It's passive. I mean, I'm not saying that Gukesh does not have a bad position. He has a very difficult position actually. But this is why this is exciting. Oh, Divya's game ended in a draw, guys. Divya's game, I was not looking at the camera, but yes, she has played her rook back to a6 and the position repeated 3 times. So Divya made a draw with Bear with the black pieces. She's still on 50%. She has, here you can see, more than a 25-50 performance. For sure, a positive result for her, because she is going to face 2600 opposition, well, approximately in the candidates, and if she can hold easily with the black pieces, I think she definitely has things to be happy about from this game. And the game was so easy that she did not even have to eat her banana, yeah. she, she keeps the energy nutrient for the next round. So this game ended in a draw. uh, let's see if Arvind has made a move. And yes, we have some moves on Arvind's board as well. He took the knight on b6 as we predicted. Yakubboev took back with the rook. Knight d5. This is exactly what we were predicting. Pawn takes, bishop back to d7. And this is the live position. Okay. Yakubboev wants to go b4, I imagine. Yakubboev wants to open up the position to create some pressure on the white king. Arvind down to 12 minutes here. Man, this game will be exciting because he's going to go down to less than 5 minutes and then he's going to try to make his moves based on intuition. By the way, guys, I'm so lucky I'm back in Portland, which means I'm back home where my sister lives, and she made me a very nice avocado toast. I don't think you can see it. It's so good. So I'm going to indulge in this whilst Arvind is thinking. So good. Thanks a lot, Beast Gamer. Yes, Divya drew her game. So we have three Indians playing now. Gukesh, who's in some trouble. Arvind, who is, kind of seems like he's actually pumped up, yeah? He's like moving the piece in his hand like this. I think Arvind seems to be in a good mindset. As you can see, Yakubboev behind. He was kind of looking from behind whether Arvind has made a move here, his opponent. And then Surya is the last Indian playing against Zujiner. 12 minutes. Let's go, Arvind bhai. Let's move. Let's stop b4. Let's go queen e1. Stop black from getting this move pawn to b4. And maybe then h4. Okay, so I know what I want to do with white. I want to go queen e1. I want to go h4. And then I want to try to go bishop h3 and g5. Because if I can exchange the light squared bishop and just place my knight on c6, I think I have a huge advantage. Because the bishop on e7 will never be able to challenge my knight. So the first step to that plan is to stop b4. Because if I go h4 and just focus on my plan, the problem is b4 and then black is just simply too quick on the queen side. So, oh, he goes queen e1. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. He's just, yes, he plays it. Fantastic. Fantastic. Arvind. Queen to e1 played and he gets up from the chair. Very nice move by Arvind. Okay. And now Yakubboev is thinking, let's go back to Gukesh's game as rook f8 and knight g4 played. Knight g4 played by Maghsoodloo. And this changes the character of the position completely because now Gukesh has to chop the knight on g4 because there's no other way you can protect the pawn on e5. If you go knight d7, I mean knight h6 check, king h8, the other knight jumps into e4, maybe to g5. No, no, no. You cannot allow this. Maybe actually there are some tricky moves here. Maybe Gukesh has an unbelievable resource like this move rook a e8, and the point is that if you take on e5 with the rook, what's the point here? Why is rook takes e5 a mistake? Can you guys find it quickly? Exactly. Ayai Singh, Ashwat, Saurabh Bhatt. Exactly. Pawn to h5. And now this attacks the knight on g4, which was protecting the rook on e5. And white is in trouble. So knight g4, rook a e8. You cannot take with the rook. If you take with the knight on e5, you want to deflect this bishop on e6 somewhere and you just chop the pawn on h3. Queen h3, rook takes e5. And maybe this could give Gukesh some hope of surviving. And I think knight g4, rook a8 is a great resource here. Let's see if Gukesh can find this. I think, oh wow, I have something. Oh, he plays it. Let's go. I was going to say that if Gukesh finds rook e8, this means that he's optimistic. And I love that he played this move very quickly, asking Maghsoodloo, what's the plan? And look at this. Gukesh gets up from his chair after a very long time. 19 minutes for Maghsoodloo. Guys, I think he can save this. I have started to believe that he can save this position. And almost 1,000 people watching here. Guys, like the stream. This is the 7th round of Prague Masters. Gukesh, who was struggling in this tournament so far, seems to be kind of motivated to defend this position right now. As he played this fantastic move, rook a8, you can capture on e5 with two pieces, none of them which are giving white an advantage. So let's think about it from white's perspective now. If I cannot take on e5, maybe I can put more pressure and play a move like queen g5. Yeah, this would be a great move from white. To just tripling down, we generally say doubling down on the e5 pawn, but tripling down on the e5 pawn. Yeah, no, if Maghsoodloo keeps on finding the best moves, this is going to make it very difficult for Gukesh. So we definitely need some help from Maghsoodloo as well. It's still long-term weakness. Exactly, Spark. You're absolutely right. Oh, Parham's expressions? What's happening? It's down to 17 minutes. I mean, he was like, I missed this move, rook a8 maybe, yeah? And a lot of players are walking in, maybe just refreshing themselves. It's not a bad idea at all when you're playing a classical game and when you have sat down on your board for a very long time to just take a quick walk to just kind of, give your mind a new perspective. Because what happens is that sometimes we are too focused on one move or like on one plan. And then when you walk around, maybe your mind gets refreshed and you come sit at the board with new fresh energy. I think this is exactly what Gukesh did a while back. Maghsoodloo with 16 minutes. What about Arvind? He's down to less than 10 minutes as after Queen E1, H5 was played by Yakubboev. Stopping this idea which we were hoping for. He's like, you wanted H4, G5, but I'm going to immediately stop that with H5. This is a great move by Yakubboev. I mean, he's keeping his king in the center, but the king is safe. Now with 8 minutes for Arvind, he needs to speed up. It's time for him to put himself in sports mode. Hello for everyone joining in, guys. Very exciting day today. We are in the final few moments of this exciting round as the players have less than 30 minutes on their clock. Arvind is playing against Yakubboev. Gukesh is defending against Maghsoodloo. Arvind can get in huge time trouble. Exactly. I mean, he already is. He has 7 minutes for 19 moves. As Yakubboev comes back and sits on his chair. What's the best move? Let's try to figure that out. Your opponent wants to take the pawn on g4. And look at the best move. The engine recommends to not care about black's threat to go h4. And if you take the pawn on g4 and go bishop e2, the point is that we wanted to exchange the light squared bishop. And the machine says that it's worth while to sacrifice a pawn to achieve that. And of course, castling short is out of the question right now because of the G line being completely open. So the white is just going to demolish the black king with h5, h6 if that ever happens. But he goes bishop e2. Arvind protects the pawn on g4. Still a very, very decent move. Very decent move, but I guess now black can take on g4 and maybe play something like rook to h3, but it's not so easy, right? Because if the white queen like ever comes into this h file, the black king will be in trouble. So bishop e2 is a decent move. Bishop e2 is a decent move. Yakubboev is thinking, coming back to Gukesh's game, no moves yet by Maghsoodloo. He's down to 13 minutes. So in both these games, we are having time pressure for one player. Arvind having some problems with his time, and now Maghsoodloo as well. How many moves does Maghsoodloo have to make? He has to make 17 moves, guys. Gukesh has real chances to save this position now. White's advantage is dwindling after Gukesh's last few moves. Maghsoodloo, what will you play? Guys, let's try to predict Maghsoodloo's move here. I have a feeling that he will play Queen G5. That's my feeling. I think Maghsoodloo will play this move Queen to G5. And look at this, Jorden, the tournament leader, looks at this exciting clash between Maghsoodloo and Gukesh. And I think he goes back to his board. Queen G5, Rook F5, Knight H6 check. Don't forget about that, guys. That's the whole point. If you go Rook F5, Knight H6 check, finito la comedy. You lose the exchange. You have to be very alert. That's why this move Queen G5 is possible. Sparkas, can Guki somehow push? Is it a two-result game? Well, unless Maghsoodloo takes on a very big risk, I don't think Gukesh can play for a win. Okay, Maghsoodloo is about to play a move. It's clear. It's clear. You can see from his body language that he's about to move his hand and make a move, and he's like, no. He comes back in his thinking posture. And he goes again for it. He goes Queen G5. Yes. Yes, that's what we were predicted. Queen G5. Now the pawn on E5 is hanging for sure, for sure. We need to defend it. Maybe it's time for us to chop the knight on G4, but that's that's going to leave us with this recurring problem of the weak pawn on E5. Okay, let's see Gukesh's expressions here. Queen G5. The pawn on E5 is under attack. I'm sure Gukesh has and was thinking about this move Queen G5. So we might see a move quickly here by Gukesh. He needs to put pressure on the clock. That's for sure. He needs to use clock in his advantage in this game to save himself. Let's go Guki, says Palak Khajoria. Yes. Is there any crazy sacrifice for black? I don't know. I can't exactly see it. Because where can I do it? Like, I, I mean, pushing b5 doesn't really help me at all. Pushing e4, well, with the pawn already being on b3, I don't really see it. So, unfortunately, I don't think that black has any opportunities to sacrifice right now. Right now, he just needs to defend his weakness. 19 minutes for Gukesh, 12 minutes for Maghsoodloo. Ah la la. I am really hoping he saves this one. This is a very big game for his confidence. Very focused here, Gukesh. He goes bishop to f5. He plays bishop f5 quickly, which was one of the best moves in the position. He does not want to take the knight on g4 and play that passive position. And now if knight h6 check, king h8, knight takes f5, maybe black can even capture on f5 with the g pawn, and then suddenly the pawn on e5 does not feel as weak as the king can march towards the center of the board. The king is a piece in the endgame. We can bring it towards the center, and I think it's a good move by him. I think bishop f5 is the best move that he could have played in the position. By the way, Surya's game, just to quickly glance what's happening on that board, because we didn't look at that game in a while. He's doing okay. He's doing okay. He's up on exchange, but actually, I don't know anymore. I said he's doing okay, but black does have a lot of pressure on the pawn on g2. So this is what's happening on his board. Let's come back to Gukesh's game. And 10 minutes for Maghsoodloo now. Okay, this is going to be exciting to follow. Jorden van Foreest, what happened to him? I think his game is still going on. It's still around equal. I think that game very likely will end in a draw. But the biggest question for everyone right now is, will Gukesh save this position? You can see here he goes back in his like thinking posture, maybe is trying to meditate, trying to give himself the positive thoughts here. You have to keep the negative thoughts at bay when you're playing when you're playing in Gukesh's shoes right now. He needs to keep thinking of ideas and plans where he can improve his position. Bishop f5 played. Okay. Can white play f4? No. f4 is a very, very bad move. Because then knight e6 can jump in and suddenly you can take on f4 and create a weakness on in the white's position. So f4 is no longer possible. Okay. We saw if knight h6, knight f5, we'll capture back with the g pawn. I guess queen e3 would be a fantastic move by Maghsoodloo. I think queen e3, again threatening knight takes e5. I think this is a very strong move by Maghsoodloo. If Maghsoodloo plays this, he retains his advantage. That's the best move that he can play in this position. Happy 4-5-6 is Prague got this. Bhai, Prague खेल ही नहीं रहा है. It's Gukesh playing black against Maghsoodloo. Defense against queen e3. Okay, that's a great question. No, maybe now we are forced to take on g4 actually. Because knight d7 is too passive, I feel. So I think you have to take on g4 and kind of try to defend this position. But Maghsoodloo needs to make this decision कि g4 पे pawns double करूंगा मैं. And kind of need to understand that he can go f3 king g2 and that he is extremely solid there and maybe can even swing over his rook, which is not so easy to understand. So let's see if Maghsoodloo finds this best move in the position queen to e3. By the way, Yakubboev, Arvind's opponent, has not yet made a move. So we'll keep an eye on both these games. Let's see if he will play queen e3. He's about to play a move. Arvind का move नहीं है अभी, so he still is doing okay on the clock. When it's his move, we'll go back to his game. Knight d7 looks good. Yeah, maybe you're right. After queen e3, knight d7, just to keep our light squared bishops, maybe it's not a bad idea. Okay, he's about to play. Can he go queen e3? Or will... Yeah, he's playing the best move. Parham Maghsoodloo, showing why he's playing this tournament. He's a very, very strong player from Iran. Yeah, and Gukesh just leans back in his chair. He needs to make another big decision. Yeah, this is what Maghsoodloo is so good at. He keeps on forcing Gukesh to make a decision on every single turn. Because now Gukesh needs to decide whether to take the knight on g4 or come back knight d7. Divya's game was a draw. She drew with the black pieces against Bear, which was a very good result for her. Engine suggests e4? No way. Oh my god. Guys, you were talking about a sacrifice. Here you get it. Pawn to e4. I did not even consider this move. And what's the point if d4? Bishop takes e4, f3, and somehow you can play h5. Oh my god. But I don't think this is practical. Because, I mean, even if you calculate everything correctly, white is doing better. And if you have one mistake in your calculation, you're completely lost. So I don't know if it's already that like moment where you kind of have to go all in. I don't think that moment has come just yet. I think he can still make some defending moves and try to keep his position solid. I don't think it's time to go all in with e4 just yet. Yeah, I agree. I agree that this sacrifice with e4 is not the best. Knight a6 to b4. Yeah, that's actually one of the best suggestions. Um, so I was afraid that I'll lose my e5 pawn, but actually after knight a6, knight e5, black is the one who's better after knight b4 because the knight on e5 is pinned to the queen. If the rook moves, you lose the knight. If the rook doesn't move, how do you defend the pawn on c2? Guys, who said knight a6? Fantastic idea by Avyay Singh. Very good. Knight, oh, but he takes on g4, kya? Let me just check. Does he take on g4? Oh, he does take on g4. Takes and knight e6 back. Aha. Gukesh does decide to give away his bishop. Mm-hmm. And now the point is that if you take the pawn on e5, what does Gukesh have in his mind, guys? Have you seen the trick which Gukesh has spotted? Exactly. Vivan, very, very quick with his answer. Avyay Singh as well finds it. Exactemo. Queen to h6 to chop the knight on d2. Anu Dravid, Shrija Chaudhary, Saurabh Bhatt. Exactly, guys. Queen h6 check and it's finito. So 96, and that's the tactical reason with which this is working for Gukesh. And you will generally see that Gukesh is someone who always makes things work like tactically or concretely. Very rarely do I see Gukesh playing like extremely slowly or strategically. I think his style is like he wants to play dynamically and very forcing chess. So he goes 96 now and he's trying to put his knight on d4. He's trying to put his knight on d4. 7 minutes for Maghsoodloo, 17 for Gukesh. Arvind's game, we had bishop e2, queen d8 back, and he goes h3. Guys, I actually am getting optimistic about Arvind's chances to win this game, and he might win his second game in a row. So we'll keep an eye on this game as Yakubboev is thinking right now. The problem is the black king, right? It cannot castle because this will mean that white can open up the position. So Yakubboev in some trouble. Gukesh, let's come back to his game. Knight e6 and no moves made yet by Maghsoodloo. Okay, he's about to play a move. He's touching his knight. So he wants to play a move with his knight here. Where? Knight where? F3? Ah, knight F3, right? Aha. Knight F3 is what Maghsoodloo is, I think, trying to play here. Did he play it? Yes, he plays it. Knight F3. Wow. And he kind of just stares at Gukesh after playing this move. I think Maghsoodloo is getting ambitious here, trying to just chop off the pawn on e5 after c5, but he needs to be careful because if he takes the pawn on e5 in a scenario like this, knight d4, and suddenly black gets some counterplay. So I think c5 needs to be played by Gukesh here. It's the only move for Gukesh, guys. If he doesn't play c5, he is losing. It's 27th move. So 13 more moves for Maghsoodloo to play with 6 minutes. And Gukesh has to find c5 here. Time trouble might cause problems for Maghsoodloo, but the thing is, it's easy to play with in white's position right now, right? He can just play c3 next to stop knight d4. He cannot allow knight d4 as white. It's very important for white to stop knight d4. So, first of all, white wants to take the pawn. And after white takes the pawn, we want to have knight d4. That's the reason why c5 is such an important move here. So Gukesh is thinking here. needs to go c5. Come on, Gukesh. This is the only move. How losing? If he doesn't play c5, it's +2. Knight d4 here. The problem is that we saw this line like takes like a similar idea. He just boom. He gives up the queen, and the problem is that your king is simply too weak on f7, and the white rooks are going to cause a lot of trouble for the black king. Knight f3, c5 is the only move. By the way, Gukesh is thinking here, but Arvind is down to 5 minutes on his board, and Arvind has a very big advantage here, more than +1 for Arvind if he finds this crazy move pawn to f4. The point is f4, ef4, and somehow you can now move your queen to b4. Even taking the pawn on h5 gives white a big advantage. 5 minutes for Arvind for 17 moves, but he can win this game. Happy Holi, guys. Happy Holi. Yes. By the way, Gukesh, did he play c5? Just to quickly check. Yes, he did go c5, but we'll stick with Arvind's board right now as he has a big opportunity to take down the Uzbeki Yakubboev Nodirbek. 4.5 minutes for Arvind. Come on, Arvind. GH5 or f4? Both are very good. He can go many moves. f4 is good. h4, this, all the moves are good for him actually. Maybe gh5 not so much, but f4 and h4 are the strongest moves here somehow. h4 because you cannot capture. We have two defenders, and if you don't capture him, maybe threatening to go g5 next. 4 minutes for Arvind. Needs to move. Needs to move. He's glancing at the clock, looking back at the position, slightly nervous. And you can see Yakubov is also shaking his leg. This one is getting very exciting. Down to the wire, this game. And he goes f4. What a player, Arvind. Man, I did not think that he could find f4. It's not an easy move to make. It's such a bold decision with just 4 minutes on his clock. But that's why he is the defending champion in this tournament. Fantastic move by him. So he goes f4 here. He has a very good advantage. ef4 and now bishop f3. Wow. Arvind had this move prepared. He has opened up the e line. Well, he did give up a pawn, but I guess the point is that after bishop f6, he can go knight c6. And if black captures d takes, the bishop protects the pawn on c6. This is a protected passed pawn. The black king is weak. This is looking very, very promising. Very, very promising for Arvind here after the move bishop f3. And Yakubboev, you can see he's slightly flustered that Arvind has found this amazing plan of f4 and bishop f3. Just quickly checking what's happening on Gukesh's game. Knight f3, c5, c3, stopping this move, knight d4, and he finds the only move again, Gukesh, knight to d8. Because if you take the pawn on e5, the knight on e5 is pinned, and now knight f7, and suddenly black is posing a lot of problems on this file. So knight d8 was a good move by Parham, by Gukesh. Man, oof, I'm getting nervous here with this much excitement. Okay, guys, I need to calm down, maybe sip some coffee. 5 minutes for Maghsoodloo. Let's stick to this board. So knight e5 will actually give black even winning chances potentially. Maghsoodloo needs to keep things under control. Maybe just king g2. Less than 5 minutes for him now. And you could see he looked at his clock and he's like, if only I had more time. But you cannot get everything. He goes d4. Wow. Maghsoodloo is finding one good move after another. All black's pieces are on the last rank, so he takes this opportunity to open up the position. And again, the problem is that whenever you take with the e pawn, queen takes e8 is just going to finish the game. d4 was a brilliant move by him. I'm getting slightly worried about Gukesh's position now because whenever Gukesh is trying to ask a forcing question, like forcing Maghsoodloo to make a bold decision, he's going for it. And look at, did you see that? Maghsoodloo, look at him. He's looking at Gukesh in the eye. He's like, what's your idea now after d4? d4 was really good. I completely agree. d4 was just a fantastic move by him. Like, the point is that if you ever go e4, white now has this e5 square because of the d4 pawn. So not only does it attack the e5 pawn, it also gives white the ability to jump in that square. And no moves made by Gukesh yet. He's thinking. Uh, and Yakubboev is also thinking. So I actually think that Arvind has a very good chance to win his game. And on the other hand, I was feeling optimistic about Gukesh holding his position, but the way Maghsoodloo has been playing, I'm not so sure anymore. And Gukesh was about to move his knight somewhere. He was about to touch his knight. At least that's what it looked like. He was hovering around his hand towards the knight. Who has better position? Well, it's Maghsoodloo who has a better position, and Queen f7. He finds the best move in the position. Okay, I like this. I like this by Gukesh. It was the only move for him. He now attacks the knight on f3 and the pawn on b3. He's fighting. I love his approach in this game. I mean, especially after the second half. I liked his approach, especially after the second half, where he realized that he has a difficult position and he's fighting. He's fighting. Guys, final few moments of the game. 4.5 minutes for Maghsoodloo. His clock is ticking. He has 11 moves to make. By the way, knight e5 is the only move. If he doesn't play knight e5, black is winning. But okay, knight e5 will happen for sure. And you can see the photographers are getting ready to capture the final few moments of this game. The spectators are keenly watching all the games. The orbiter is also excited कि भाई क्या हो रहा है ये गेम में. This is fun. Oof. 3.5 minutes. By the way, Yakubboev, Arvind's opponent, is also down to 7 minutes. This means that, okay, he does take on e5. He does take the pawn on e5. Queen takes b3, immediately captured by Gukesh. And immediately f4. Wow. Wow. But this is a mistake. Guys, f4. Not the best move by Maghsoodloo. And Gukesh is back in the game. This is equal suddenly. And we were talking about this. We just need to keep sending positive energy. All he can do is find the best move in the current position, and that's the way to playing a good tournament. f4, time to just go knight f7. You can even chop off the pawn on a4. Guys, the things can turn around with 4.5 minutes on Maghsoodloo's clock. Things can easily turn around. And although the game of Arvind's exciting, his opponent has not yet made a move, so we'll try to keep an eye on both the boards. Gukesh has 12 minutes. Come on, Gukesh. I will say one thing for sure, that black is not better yet. I mean, with this move f4, white is also at some moment threatening this move pawn to f5. So it does look scary. And this is why I like knight f7. Because now f5, we can chop the pawn on d4. And we can at least try to exchange all of the pieces. A draw would be a great result, as we were uh, previously speaking. It remains a complex position. Yes, Himang bhai, absolutely. Oh man, I want to take your attention to Yakubboev's game because he's down to 5 minutes 20 seconds to Arvind's 4 minute 40 seconds. So maybe we can just stick to this game for a few minutes because Arvind has a huge advantage. And look at this, he's about to make a move, but he doesn't know what to play. He doesn't know what to do. There are no good moves. If you go bishop f6, we saw this idea of knight c6, and the knight is just such a menacing piece here. Queen can jump into a5 as well. If queen e8, queen a5, and this is just completely winning for white. He takes on g4. He takes on g4. But now there is an unbelievable intermediate move. Oh my god. Arvind can play knight c6 here? I don't believe this. And if bishop c6, you now take on g4 and you are down a piece, but you are threatening checkmate. I mean, after takes, if the bishop moves queen h8, it is a checkmate. Okay, but he just takes back on g4 with the pawn. Okay, this is more logical. I mean, I'm trying to get uh, too carried away with the complications, but I like this approach by Arvind. You have 4.5 minutes on your clock. Just play simple chess. No need to complicate the game. At g, and now just take on h1 with the queen, right? This is going to happen for sure. Yes, he does it. Queen takes h1. Queen h8 is a mate in one threat right now. King g8, I guess, or what? He goes bishop h4. And this is going to be a very key moment. Guys, you have about 30 seconds to find this move before Arvind hopefully plays this move on the board. How can white put more pressure on the H line? How can white do this? Gukesh game, yes, 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 yes. We are going towards that. But first, very important move here. Divyansh finds it. Exactly. Exactly. Many people finding it. Knowledge nudge. All side hunter gaming. Rook to d2. Brillante. Threatening rook h2 and just doubling on the h line. If black ever goes g5, the bishop on h4 will be a big pawn. That's why rook d2 is the best move. Going back to Gukesh's game, what happened here? He goes knight e5, queen b3, f4, he takes on d4, c takes d4, and maybe if Gukesh takes the queen on e3, he is getting closer and closer to draw this game, but I want to stick to Arvind's game because rook d2 is a crucial move in this position. Gukesh is close to drawing. He's thinking there. Arvind, look at the poise with which Arvind is sitting on his board right now. He only has a few minutes left on his clock, but he's keeping things under control. He won his last game. If he wins this game, it's going to be two in a row, and a very bad start to this tournament is going to kind of be completely turned into a very decent tournament as he finds rook d2. Bravo, maestro. Rook d2 played. What a player. Rook d2, yeah? He is threatening to go rook h2 now. No, this is very difficult for Yakubboev. This is extremely difficult for Nodirbek to defend. And you can see Abhudaya there in the background recording some of the games. He is Yes, you can see some of his interviews as well after the game. Abhyudaya always doing such a good job there. Guys, I am doing well. I'm doing very well. Hopefully, you guys are doing well as well. As we are in the seventh round of Prague Masters, following this final few moments, do like the stream so more people can watch this final moments of Arvind hopefully winning his second game in a row. As Yakubboev is thinking here, did Maghsoodloo any moves on this game? Maghsoodloo Gukesh? No, not yet. So basically here, just to explain, Gukesh can take on e3 and play knight c6, and I feel like this endgame should be very, very close to a draw. So this is what's happening on this board. But let's come back to this board as after rook d2, Yakubboev is under tremendous pressure. What to do? G5. Okay, some people are asking what if G5? The problem with G5 is that the bishop has just nowhere to go now. And we can reroute our queen from G1 to D4, and we are just playing a piece up basically. With this bishop being completely out of the game, we are playing as if we are a piece up. This is why the advantage has skyrocketed for white. Arey Pradeep Kumar bhai, welcome to the stream. Yeah, he has to somehow go king g8 so that the bishop on h4 can move. But the problem is king g8, rook h2. Yeah, I mean, you're still forced to play this move g5, which is definitely in white's favor. Oh, we have a move. What did he play? No, no moves yet. Gukesh's game was a move. He goes queen takes a4. Look at this. Gukesh is getting ambitious here. f5, knight f7. Game on with 6 minutes each. I mean, okay, first of all, my question is, ये pawn मारा तो क्या हो रहा है? Man, black is better? At g6 and Gukesh is better? Can he win? Gukesh has suddenly, after this move queen a4, kind of given a statement that I don't mind playing this for a win for a win now. Okay, 4.5 minutes for Maghsoodloo. By the way, 2 minutes for Yakubboev. So I think this is definitely going to be a bigger time crunch. I'm jumping from one board to another just to give you guys updates on both of them. And what's happening here? He's about to play a move, but he doesn't know. He's not able to make that decision. Arvind eagerly awaits his opponent's next move as he knows he's very close to winning this. Rook d2 down to 1.5 minutes now. He goes g6. This is a huge mistake. But the sequence is not so easy to find. The best move here is to go g5. Giving up a pawn. If you take with the bishop, of course, queen h8 check, finito. King e7, rook e2 check. It's completely losing. If you take with the queen, now we go rook h2, which means g5 is no longer possible. If bishop g3, we invade with the rook. You have to go to e7. If you go to g7, the queen will jump in. So king e7. And now simply knight c6 check. And the point is this bishop is out of the game. The queen is out. And who's going to stop my pawn from queening? No one. g5. Can Arvind find it? Man, if g5 is played by Arvind, that would just be epic. I mean, even knight c6 is winning, but g5 is just like, winning on the spot. In the meantime, Maghsoodloo has not made his move yet. So, in the last few minutes, things have really turned around well for the Indian boys. This is exciting. भाई g5 होगा क्या नहीं? Even I am curious as a commentator, but more like a spectator, whether Arvind will find this crucial idea. The icing on the cake, as Himank says. I mean, it's not the only move. As I said, he's also winning with knight c6. So he does have room to spare in his calculation. I think he has spotted it. I think he has spotted it. Look at the way his eyes are moving. Boom, 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 boom. G5, rook h2, rook h8, knight c6. And he plays it. A masterful game, masterclass game by Arvind here. Pawn to g5. Brillante. Brillante. Queen g5, rook h2. He has spotted the winning idea. Invade with his rook to h8 and then knight c6 check. My goodness. Arvind is playing so good. And to be honest with you, after the first 4 rounds, I was not sure if this is going to be Arvind's tournament. But look at the way he has proven us wrong. He won his last game against Gukesh. And in this game, I mean, I think this is perhaps one of the best games that Arvind has played in this tournament strategically. First giving up the pawn on f4, then on g5 with only a few minutes on his clock. He never let that affect him as Yakubboev is about to move his bishop. Bishop g3 and just rook h8 check will happen immediately. Yes, yes, yes. Arvind OP, guys. Rook h8 check. He's completely winning. What about Gukesh's game? Bhai, this is also getting crazy. White just played the move king to h3. Kya chal raha hai bhai? King h3. Okay, we'll come back to this game. 6 more moves until they reach the time control, but I think we are about to see resignation soon on this board. So we'll stick with this game. King e7 and knight c6 check. I think that's the best, right? Yes, he goes for it. Instead of looking at the engine, what is the best move, I should just wait and see what Arvind plays because he's playing one best move after another. Too good, yaar. Maza aa gaya. Yes, the perennial wanderer. I am following the Aeroflot Open where Faustino Oro is trying to break the youngest GM record. He, I think, needs to win 2 games in a row. So it won't be easy, but he has some chances. Almost 2,000 people watching Arvind right now. He has given knight to c6 check. I think the black player needs to take that knight. But he knows that if he takes the c6 pawn is going to become too strong. Like bishop c6, dc6, the pawn is just 2 squares away from queening. And even though black is up 2 pawns, this bishop is completely out of the game. Yeah, he's about to take it with less than a minute on his clock. But I think now we know that Arvind is completely winning. He takes with the d pawn. So maybe it's time to go to Maghsoodloo's game. Because although we really want to see the finish on this board, I think things can really turn around completely on this board as well. So Arvind, guys, I mean, I just what to say, yeah? He has played beautiful chess here and he's just a few moves away from winning. But unfortunately, there is too much excitement going on Gukesh's board as well. So the material is 4 pawns for Maghsoodloo and 5 for Gukesh. Right? This is what we have on the board. But the problem is that white is posing a lot of problems towards the black king. So this is where Maghsoodloo's compensation is right now. So, okay, people want to look at the final moments of Arvind winning. Okay, sure. We'll be here. We'll look at the final moments, guys. Here we have it. If we can get Arvind's camera as well. Bishop d5. He just locked the queen on c5 completely. And now queen e4 check is going to happen next. 1 minute left for Yakubboev. Yeah, I think both players know that the outcome of this game is no longer in doubt. Let's just wait to see the final moments of this game. "40 seconds for Yakubboev. But look at this. Arvind is still not relaxing. And this is a sign of a top player. He knows he's completely winning. And this happens very often to people in winning positions, is that they relax too quickly. This has happened to me several times. But Arvind is showing his experience. He's showing that he's a matured top player by still being completely focused in this moment. King f6. Because the game is not yet over. Maybe time to move the rook somewhere so that the queen can jump into h8. Yeah. Yakubboev is fighting on, but not for long. By the way, Jorden van Foreest has drawn his game against Nodirbek, which means that Jorden keeps the sole lead. And Arvind is not rushing with his decision. He can move his rook to e8. He can move his rook to g8. He does have the luxury of choosing right now. One thing you don't want to do is go something like queen h7, because after queen takes d5, c7, suddenly black is the one winning after rook c6. So you don't really want to rush with something. He goes rook f8. Yeah, very good. Very good move. Threatening the pawn on f7, which you cannot defend. It's good to attack something when your opponent cannot defend it. We might see Yakubboev throwing in the towel any moment here now. But you don't want to do that, right? You want to keep playing, you want to keep fighting, and this is what Yakubboev is doing. He goes b4. He goes b4. I like this move, trying to create some counterplay somehow. Oh man, there is a very clean move for white to win the game, pawn to c7. I don't know if he will play this, but it's such a nice move. If b takes a3, you can simply, I mean, it's a bit risky, but you can just make a new queen on the board. And if you take with the queen, then there is just queen h8 check and rook takes f7. But it's a bit risky. So I don't think I think a4 is the best. I think the best decision here is to simply go a4 and stop all counterplay. No need to allow any tricky business. And Gukesh's board, by the way, down to 1 minute is Maghsoodloo. Okay, let's see this game as well. Pawn to a4. Let's have the camera of Gukesh as well. I mean, it's clear that Arvind is going to win, but let's see what's happening here as Maghsoodloo is down to 45 seconds. A4, and he's trying to promote the pawn. 30 seconds for Maghsoodloo. Can we get Maghsoodloo's camera? A4 is nice. A4 is nice. Okay, so we have Arvind's camera and we have the board of Gukesh. Queen e3 played. Queen e3 played, and Arvind does go for a4 and rook takes f7. So he is doing this in style. Coming back to Gukesh's board. Queen e3. And I think they might have reached the time control. Oh no, not yet. I thought that Arvind reached this time control, but no, he has not reached. He still needs 3 more moves to make. And producer bhai, are you here? Okay, let's wait and see. Rook takes f7. Oh, amazing. So maybe we can. What do you think? We should, guys. Can we go to Gukesh's game? Okay, let's go to Gukesh's game just to see what's happening here. 2.5 minutes for him. Let's get Gukesh on the board, on the camera. Oof. Okay. We understood everything on Arvind's board, but what about this game? What is the threat of Maghsoodloo if I play a move like, let's say, I cannot play a3 because the queen stops it. If I play something like c6, f6 is the threat. F6 followed by rook e7 potentially. So this is what Maghsoodloo wants, to go pawn to f6. Yes, Yakubboev, Nodirbek and Jorden drew their game. And Arvind is completely winning as we saw. But Gukesh has 1 minute 28 seconds. And they only have 3 more moves to make. Gukesh had an extremely difficult strategic position. He fought his way into equality, then went to play for a win. And now this is where we are in a complex, heavy piece middle game. He goes b5. Wow. And Ganguly is also slightly better. So actually, this might be a good day for the Indian players. As Gukesh pushes b5, he's ready to advance his connected passed pawns. 25 seconds for Maghsoodloo. 20 seconds only. 15. Oh man. He plays rook f4. Wow. Rook f4, threatening f takes g6 now. 2 more moves to make to reach the time control. And to be honest, I don't think white is risking a lot because the black king is weak. The white king on h3 very safe. Yes, the pawn on f5 is annoying. 1 minute 20 seconds. As you can see, Surya might have reached his time control. He's walking around. We'll go to his game as well. But this is the critical moment here. 1 minute for Gukesh. 2 moves to make. He cannot falter now. And you can see he's getting slightly nervous here. It's not easy to play with 1 minute on your clock. Not at all easy. You can see Parham. Oh, 20 seconds for Gukesh now. Oh, Gukesh, you have to play. 12 seconds. 10. Guki, you have to move. 5 seconds. No move yet. Oh my goodness. Gukesh, you have to play. Queen d5. He finds the best move in the position with 2 seconds on his clock. Man, Gukesh is crazy when it comes to tactics. What a move. What a move. Threatening mate in 1. If you take my queen, I take your queen on e3. This is a fantastic move by him. And last move. Only one more move to make. Maghsoodloo is completely shocked by this move. And he's like, what? How can you play queen d5? And Gukesh is like, yes, I can. And we have seen a lot of mistakes on move number 40. He goes queen e1. He goes queen e1. One last move for Gukesh to make. One last move. 5 seconds for him now. Will he come back with his queen, or he's like, what to do? Big decision. He takes the rook on e5 and d5, and the players have reached the time control on this board. Wow. And you can see the sigh of relief on both players as they've reached move number 40. They get 30 additional minutes on their clock. And Gukesh is definitely out of the out of the trouble here, as he is playing for a win with the a pawn being only 3 squares away from promoting. Yes, there are these protected passed pawns as well, but I think Gukesh has good chances now. I think Gukesh has good chances to draw and potentially even to play for a win. And what about Arvind? Okay, they have also reached move 40, but I don't think a lot has changed. I don't think a lot has changed, as Arvind is completely winning as well. Yeah, totalmente, he can just move his king over to a2, and there's no stopping the c pawn. There's no stopping the c pawn. I don't even think he's on the board. Yeah, Arvind is just taking a breather. He goes, refills his water bottle, and I think he will play the move king to a2 rather quickly. He comes back on his board, writes down the move queen g1 check, and the point is that the bishop is going to go to e6, c7, c8, and the f pawn can never really advance because the rook and the bishop are protecting it. The bishop on g3, as we mentioned numerous times, is completely blocked by its own pawn on f4. It has no good path to go back to c7. Well, it does, but it takes too many moves. It takes too many moves. And what about Surya? Well, Surya actually has some winning chances against Jujiner, who has been struggling in this tournament. So we had Divya, who drew her game with the black pieces. Arvind is completely winning. Gukesh equal, but it can go either way. And then Surya is better. So this is turning out to be a very good day for Indians. Yeah, Rook f6 has a nasty threat. Like, Zhu Jinar is threatening something like Rook to f3. Like, imagine we take the pawn on c5, Rook f3. And if you take with the pawn, Queen h3 is checkmate. So this is what Zhu Jinar is banking on. But here, Surya can simply come back with his Queen on f1 and still continue to play for a win. So Surya doing well here. Let's go back to see if any of our Masters game have development. Not yet on this board between Gukesh and Maghsoodloo. Gukesh is maybe not on his. Oh, by the way, King A2 played by Arvind. Okay. Arvind goes for King A2 and Rook E8. Rook E8 by Yakubboev. I think he wants to go Rook E1 and try to pose problems on the white king. And I don't think Arvind will allow it. I think he will simply go Bishop to E6 and block the entry of this Rook. I think that's the easiest. And does it do it? Not yet. Not yet. But yeah, Bishop E6 is a fantastic move by Arvind. Oh, he goes Queen C. No way. No, no, no. No way. Please, no. 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 No, I don't believe this. I I I refuse to believe this is happening. How can you allow Rook E1, Arvind, after playing such a good game? Like, how do you? allow rook e1. He had 28 minutes on his clock and he played this move queen c3 very quickly. And look at this. Of course, Nodirbek is going to play rook e1 now. How, like, after playing such a good game, like we were mentioning, this is one of the best games that Arvind played, and now he's allowing rook e1. And look at this. He's visibly upset and nervous now. He's trying to control his emotions, but just rook e1. He simply had to stop this one idea, bishop e6, stop this rook from invading. And we were all wondering why Yakubboev is still playing on in this completely losing position. Well, this is why. And look, and rook, he's about to play this move, rook e1. This is an unbelievable turnaround. And look at Arvind's reaction. He's like, what did I just do? What did I just do? How can I allow this? And Arvind is so angry at himself. He's talking to himself. And I was like, what? Like, he had one idea of rook e8. He's like, one idea to go to e1 and I don't stop that. Like, what am I thinking? And he has every right to be angry at himself now. As Yakubboev survives. Look at this. Look at Arvind's reaction. He's like, what? क्या सोचा मैंने यार? Like, I thought queen f6 is mate. Of course it's not. He's so angry. Man, this is hard to see. This is definitely hard to see, but yeah, you just can't believe it. Yeah, and guys, I'm not like, I mean, I'm not angry at Arvind. Of course, I'm not. I'm just uh, unhappy. I'm just unhappy to see this move. Especially when someone plays, I mean, even if it was Yakubboev who played such a good game, it's just sad to see like this, to not convert such a good game. And yeah, Arvind is in total disbelief here. He's completely flustered at himself. This is what can happen in sports. He's speaking with himself. He's like, yeah, now I have to give a perpetual. Yeah, now it's a draw. Yeah, I'll just tell you guys what happens after b4 because I mean, you're losing after b4 because king b3, queen d1, and you're losing the d5 bishop. I don't know if this is what he missed. No, I mean, you're losing now. You cannot play b4. You have to give a check, and then you have to give a check, and you just simply need to repeat now. This is the best that you have in the current position for Arvind to repeat and make a draw. 35, not even 35, 41 moves of perfect chess, one bad move, and you can completely collapse. This is this is what can happen in sports. We have seen this in other sports as well. Down by 2 goals in football, and suddenly after 85th minute, your opponent scores 2 goals to tie the game. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes he just thought that he's so winning. I mean, he did not really utilize his 30 minutes very well played queen c3 very quickly, but maybe he could have used a few more minutes. Yeah, okay, what to do? We can only talk so much and analyze, but these things happen in sports. It's normal. It's sad, but it happens. Let's see if there are any moves on Gukesh's board. And yes, we do. Rook e5, d5, and a3. A3 played by Gukesh, advancing the pawn. And it's just a very complicated position now. I don't think there is any forced draw. Like let's say e6, a2 is losing because of f6. So both players need to be accurate. Now maybe g5. And if the rook goes back to, let's say, f2, then rook f6, rook h6 is a mating idea. Oh, this is what he's banking on, Gukesh, this trick. So white has to go rook e4, a2, and I don't know why this position is equal. I mean, it's so complicated. There can be all three results on this board. And I don't think the clocks are updated, but Gukesh has 21 minutes, 42 seconds, and from what I see, Maghsoodloo has around 25 minutes. Ah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just need to try and move on from that. We need to try and move on for that from that, I guess. Maghsoodloo plays e6. Yes. Yeah, David says I'm like 1,000 rated and I don't understand anything on Gukesh's board. Yeah, I mean this is so complicated. I mean, even for even for me, it's not so easy because white has these two pawns which are so close to promoting. But the good thing and the bad thing is that the black king is so close to these pawns. The good thing because it can protect against these pawns queening, and the bad thing because these pawns can give some checks and put this king on danger. So I think this game is literally the best example of how the game can go in and can swing in any direction. But the players have a lot of time, which generally these top players find their way into. They find their way into equality. Yeah, I think Gukesh kind of has his move ready. I think like it feels as if he's about to play a move, and he is. By the way, Arvind has not made a move yet. He's just in shock. Arvind is just in shock on that board, but we'll stick to this board to see what Gukesh plays. I'm expecting g5, but let's see. Let's see. He goes, yeah, yeah, g5 played. G5 played by Gukesh, and now Parham has to go to e4 actually. Well, he can go e7 as well, but he doesn't have, like, he cannot go back to f2, for example, as we saw rook f6, and it's just checkmate. So, rook e4 or e7, these are the only two moves that Maghsoodloo can play, and Gukesh gets up from his chair. I guess he's also curious to see what's happening on his friend's board. And yeah, this is the game that we were discussing about. Arvind just allowed rook to e1 in a completely winning position, and now he has to give a perpetual because black is threatening a mate in one on a1. So we'll come back to this g5, and Maghsoodloo is thinking. Gukesh comes back to his board. sits down, and I'll maybe just take, we'll keep the camera of this board. I'll just take a 2 3 minute break and be right back. If we can just go full screen on this board, producer, bye. Thank you. And I'm back. Um, as we have Surya against Jules Jenner in front of us right now. As Surya has an advantage, is up an exchange. So I think he should have very good chances to win this game now. Surya doing very, very well. Divya drew her game in the challenger section. So Divya continues to have a good tournament. Coming back to Arvind's board, can we actually get his camera? Because he has not made a move yet. And it's clear that he needs to repeat now. I hope that he doesn't like go berserk and does not even repeat. Like, I understand this was a huge miss by him to allow rookie one, but he needs to give a perpetual now. He shouldn't play on this game for a win anymore, because if he does, he might lose this. And you guys must have heard about the theory of sunk costs, yeah? Like the winning position has already gone. So we no longer can think that we had a winning position. We need to make a draw now. We need to make the best move in front of us, which is to make a draw now. Yeah, and I think he keeps on struggling to come in terms with the fact that he needs to make a draw. Um, but let's quickly check Gukesh's game because we had a lot of moves here. The pawn is now on A2 for black. So after G5, Maghsoodloo played rook e4, A2. And this is the live position that we have in front of us. So let's look at one of the lines that engine recommends to just understand what's happening here. So it recommends, let's say, rook e5, queen a8, threatening queen. And we don't even care about that. We go e7. Because if we queen now, white takes the rook on f8 with a check. If you take with the queen, you lose this one. So you have to take with the king. And now rook e8 check. Wow. To deflect this queen. And if you take here, white takes here. And somehow this position is completely equal. So this is the reason why the engine says that this position is equal. Engine said players with this position after Arvind's last move. And Justin Keth makes a super chat. Thanks a lot. Well, there is the best advice obviously is to be like, okay, I played a fantastic game. This just shows that I can outplay players like Yakubboev uh, cleanly. It's just that I made one like brain slip and I did not win the game. So you have to obviously also and then ask yourself after the game, not right now, that why did I play so quickly? And you just need to improve a little bit from this game. Because it's clear from this game that Arvind's problem was not his chess strength, right? Like in terms of his chess strength, he played perfectly. But I think something psychological or like he just had like this like brain slip when he played this move Queen C3 and allowed Rook E8. So what to do? What to do? But I mean, by the way, A marks to Yakubboev for continue to pose problems and find resources. Full marks to him, and also full marks to Gukesh on this game because he was in a very difficult position. When I first started streaming, Gukesh was in like, I mean, I would say a strategic uh, disaster almost with his weak pawn on e5. But he kept on fighting. He kept on finding resources, and now he's very close to drawing this game. And e7 about to be played by Parham. E7 is about to be played. Mhm. Oh, we have a question on Hemang's board, on, Arvind's board by Hemang. What if queen takes e1? Well, if queen e1, queen takes e1, c7, I guess this was the point to promote, but just queen e8 back. And the point is that even if you get, like, you obviously have to give up you kind of have to give up your rook, right, to make a queen. Because if you go something like rook g7, queen c8, even black is better. So you go bishop b7, I take queen, and only white is risking to lose here with the f pawn, like f3, and the pawn is about to queen. And that's why I was saying that with just 7 minutes on his clock as well, there is no reason to take this risk. So yeah, you asked me what's the advice. My advice is to not play for a win anymore. Because practically the best decision, and even objectively, is probably to just make a perpetual. Yeah. But the longer he thinks, the longer I feel that he is going to play for a win, which would be hard. But hopefully he can just convince himself to give a perpetual. By the way, e7 rook e8 played, and now it's the only move for Maghsoodloo. So let's stick to this game now, because Parham has to find rook to e6 against Gukesh. And he goes for it. Yeah, he finds the only move. Rook to e6. Very high quality chess by both the players here. Rook e6, and there is no clear draw. That's the funny part about this position. Like, black can simply play a move like c5, and the game continues. Like, white goes something like queen a1, b4, and now somehow rook e5. This is not easy. I'm not so sure that this game is going to end in a draw. I think someone might get chances. Someone might get chances, and actually, let's yeah, no, maybe we can just see what's happening here. We have the cameras as well. Rookie 6. Gukesh is thinking, and look at, it's so nice to see that, in Prague Masters, right next to Gukesh, we have these futures tournament for the girls, and they get an opportunity to sit right next to some of the best players in the world, and it's such a nice way to inspire these young players. And here we have a view of the playing hall. The players sitting in the middle are all spectating this tournament. So many of them still watching after more than 3.5 hours of play. We can see Surya here, who was also still playing against Zhu, and back to Gukesh's board here, as he's thinking whether he should push c5, or whether. By the way, guys, after b4, after, let's say, um how can I trick you guys? Let's say after rook, oh, no, I cannot like this. I wanted to ask after b4, if you can, what will happen if queen takes b4, but the problem is that black can even queen. But yeah, whenever the queen moves away from the e line, queen h1 is going to be checkmate. So that's one of the reasons why the queen has to stay to on the last rank to control it. Rook e6. And by the way, Arvind did play a move. He gave queen g7 check, which means that repetition is incoming between Arvind's board. King g5 played, and we can just see this game as both players will repeat. Maybe we can just quickly go to that board, as I'm sure. Yeah, queen f6 check, and if we can get the camera of Arvind as well, because they're repeating. Yeah, check, check, queen g7, king back to g5, queen f6 check, and we'll see one of the players calling the orbiter, claiming a threefold repetition, and it might happen now, as Yakubboev, he just plays king h6 instead and draw. And he's like, Arvind is like, let's agree to a draw, and yeah, draw. And Yakubboev knows that he escaped He escaped by a miracle against Arvind. He does not even say a word to him. He knows that his opponent is going to be upset. Arvind signs the score sheet here, puts back his pieces, but I'm sure that this he's going to go back to his room and ponder upon the last few moments, last few moves of this game as he was unable to convert on his advantage. He got the game of the game of the day in the last round, so that's the prize that he has. He just took with himself, takes the score sheet, and you could see the way he's like looking up. He's like, how did I not win this game? And although the result of the game was a drop, since he was completely winning, Arvind was very upset at himself, which means now we can focus on Gukesh's board. Um, Gukesh playing against Parham. Rook e6 and 13 minutes left for Gukesh here. He's so focused still after 3.5 hours of play. He's still trying to find resources to keep the game going, to have some winning chances. He needs to hope, like, a draw would kind of just the stop the bleeding, I think, for Gukesh, because he lost the last two games in a row. He was in a difficult position in this game as well. So I think a draw will kind of just stabilize himself, and then again with white, maybe he can try to press. But this game is far from a draw, to be honest. It's still quite complex. So let me not uh, conclude anything in this position. Oh, we have some questions. Um, what if black pushes c5, b4, and c4? Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what black wants, to kind of get these pawns as close as possible to the queening square. So c5 is, for me, the most logical move. And I guess after that, queen c1 could be a very, very nice idea by Parham to attack the pawn on g5. And I think this is the reason why he's thinking, because you cannot really play h6, because after queen a1, rook g6 check is inevitable. So queen c1, and I think this is what Gukesh is calculating, whether he can allow losing the pawn on g5. Well, he can play king f7, because taking the pawn on g5 would mean that queen h1 is a checkmate. So I think queen c1, king f7 is what Gukesh needs to find in this position. So back to the live board. Will Gukesh play pawn to c5? King f7 immediately, someone asks. Yeah, it's also possible actually. But after queen a1, queen f6 check looks a little scary, right? But yeah, I guess you can still play king g8 back and queen c1, and we might repeat this position. So rook e6, no moves yet by Gukesh, and he's getting down on the clock. He's down to 11.5 minutes now. b4, people are saying, might be a better move. I like this idea. Pawn to b4. You cannot take, of course, because it's mate. So queen c1 is what we were always talking about. And now king f7. And now queen a1 is the only move for white. And after king g8, queen c1 back. And this could be a repetition. But white is forced to find some only moves after b4. I like this suggestion. Who suggested this? Yeah, the perennial wanderer. Yes, I agree with you. I think b4 is good. Me gusta. Me gusta b4. Okay, Gukesh. Oh, did is he on the? Yeah, he's still deciding. It's not easy to decide when you have a lot of options and all of them are in some ways equally good. But I think b4 might just be slightly better than all of them. The thing, like is with chess and like with most of the sports, is that every day you get the opportunity to play one of the best games of your life every single day. And not just in sports, but in just in life, every day we get the opportunity to have the best day that we've had so far. But very often we kind of carry the baggage from our previous days, or we carry the anxiety from what will happen in the future days, which kind of prevents us from doing that. But if we can just focus on the day in front of us, I think that is a very good way to have a good mindset. So Gukesh is trying his best to do that. It's not easy, of course. Yeah, 8.5 minutes for Gukesh now. Guys, what's your prediction? I'm watching the chat. Let's see who gets it right. Let's see. Queen to d4. h5 नहीं भाई, h5 थोड़ा ज़्यादा हो गया भाई. h5 is a bit too ambitious, I think, because it completely opens up our king. Queen a1 and rook g6 check is coming in next. I think h5 is too much. So I don't think h5 will happen. Queen d4, b3. Uh, before I'm too related to tell, by guess karo yaar. So I think most of the suggestions are b4 and queen d4. Okay, I think both of them are very, very logical. So queen d4, by the way. Oh, queen d4. The only move is rook a6. Because you're threatening to promote, rook a6 is the only move. a1 queen, rook a1 only move. Because if you take with the queen, this endgame is winning for black with two connected passed pawns. So after a1, you have to take with the rook. Then you can play queen f6 back. And this could be a way for Gukesh to try and continue the game, yeah? Like to have these outside connected pawns. This could be a good way. So I like, hmm. Okay, if I had to guess, I'm now going to bank my money on the move queen d4 actually. I like it. But Gukesh's clock is ticking. He's now down to 7 minutes only. 6 minutes actually. Yeah, no more, no moves yet. Okay, well, we have a question. Why was rook e6 the only move? I think because uh, the point is that you have the ability to stop the a pawn via a6. And also the other reason is that whenever the h pawn moves, rook g6 check becomes an idea. So it's very nice because it not only has defensive ideas but also some attacking ideas with rook g6 or pawn f6. That's why rook e6 was the crucial defending move. And yeah, still thinking, Gukesh. Queen d4 or b4? That's the question. He's unable to decide between these two moves. And he's like, okay, we just got 30 minutes of additional time after move 40. It's move number 43 and I only have 6 minutes left. I think that's what his reaction was after he looked at the clock. 5 minutes now, in fact. And he needs to move. He needs to keep some time for the end game. And although there are just a few pieces left on the board, this still remains to be a very complicated position. And Parham is not even on the board for the last 10 minutes. The whole time that we were analyzing this, Parham was not even at the board. And he goes for what? What is he about to play? C5? Gukesh is like, I'm not going to play Queen d4 or b4. He's going for c5. But then he brings his hand back. He was not convinced that he should go for c5. 4.5 minutes for him. And he no longer has the luxury of just calculating between three, four options. He now needs to play on his intuition. And Parham is, I'm sure, not on the board, but still calculating about this position. Because very often what players do is that they're away from the board, but they're using that time to, calculate blindfoldedly. What's the word? Calculate blindfoldedly. Yeah, blindfoldedly maybe. So rook e6. I actually like doing that. I like to not look at the board and calculate. I think Arjun is also someone who likes to do that. But okay, now Gukesh, less than 4 minutes. Bhai, play. 3 minutes. Because when you go down to less than 1 minute on the clock, even if the position is equal, you can make blunders. And Param has 20 minutes. Did he play? Oh my God. Still no move. Okay, so c5, let's just try to understand. C5 was the move that he was intending to play. Queen c1. And now the g5 pawn is under attack. You'd never want to touch this pawn because of rook g6 check. So let's say you go king f7. And now only move for white queen a1, but not so difficult because you're threatening queen f6 check. And if you go queen d4, you lose the a2 pawn. So that's why after rook e6, uh, Gukesh did not go for c5 because of this move queen to c1. One and a half minute. And I think he has thought for more than how long? He has thought for more than 17 and a half minutes in this position. That's way too much. I don't think using 17 and a half minutes in this position was the best idea because this leaves you with only the rest of the game. There is no more increment, no more additional time besides the 30 seconds that you get. And look at him. He's just like, still doesn't feel like he's going to make a move in the next 10 seconds. Look at your clock. Gukesh, just take a look at it. You have 1 minute 10 seconds. Yeah, we're back, I guess. We're live or? Okay, okay. I guess I'm not sure what happened, guys, but we are back. And Gukesh just played pawn to b4. He finally made his decision, and now Parham's only move is queen to c1. And you can see Parham knows that he needs to still be accurate. Yeah, I think he'll play queen c1 very quickly, right? Because what else can he do? If he pushes f6, you can simply make a new queen and deflect the queen to chop the rook on e6. Guys, we are back now. We are back. We are back. And Gukesh has forced Parham to find this move queen c1. And I think after that he might go king f7. If you take the pawn, it's mate. Queen a1 only move. And he might try to, find some idea in this position. I mean, it's tough because queen f6 check is coming. So this might be equal. But Parham at least has to find these two only moves. Queen c1 and then after queen c1 to find queen a1. If Parham does not find queen c1, that would be insane. And he has to pose some problems on black, right? He cannot allow black to simply progress his pawns to b3 and b2. So he needs to create some threats. So I guess queen c1 is very logical from that perspective. Gukesh looks away from the board. I think Gukesh has seen queen c1. The question is if Parham has seen it. By the way, just to update you about the results from the Masters, Jorden drew his game against Nodirbek. Hans drew against David Navara. Arvind, who was completely winning, drew his game against Yakubboev. And it seems like Vincent Keymer is much better against Antón Guijarro. By the way, Queen C1 played. Queen c1 played and king f7 immediately blitzed out by Gukesh. And now another only move for Parham, which he does not even blink about. He goes queen to a1 immediately, threatening queen f6 check. And I think, guys, we might just see repetition here after king g8 and queen c1. Because queen f6 check is a big threat. He goes back king g8. Yes, he goes back king to g8, which means that Parham is looking at the score sheet. But I think queen c1 back will be played. And yes, he goes back queen c1. Threatening queen takes g5. And just update that on the board. Yes, here we go. Gukesh really wants to play for a win, but I don't think that there is a way for him to continue this game. But it's a good result for him. I don't think Gukesh should be unhappy. I mean, he was much worse. And then he got into this complicated position. And now he has to repeat, which is a good result. I mean, he's a bit unhappy that he has to draw this, but I think that it's a very good result for him, considering this opening. And he's shaking his head though. Like Gukesh does not even want to draw this game. He's very unhappy that he has to repeat. And he's like looking away. He really wanted to win. He just wanted to get a win. But it's not easy in this tournament. And he goes back king f7. And Parham is going to go queen a1 back. And he does. Yeah. And I guess we will see a handshake very soon. Yeah, king g8 and he offers a draw Gukesh and draw agreed. And Gukesh immediately, was I better or something like this? Or like, did I have anything instead of c5? But they're analyzing the game. And Parham is like, yeah, I should have been much better. And I'll allowed so much counterplay out of nowhere. Yeah, both players are wanting to know what their opponent calculated. This is one of the best ways to understand who calculated better during the game, because in the post-match analysis you can kind of explain your thoughts and understand your opponents as well. But finally, this game ended in a draw. Gukesh saving a worse position with the black pieces. Um, Arvind also drawing his game. So both these games ended in a draw. And I mean, a draw with black is a pretty good result against a 27-10 20 player. Um, I think this was very good by him. And two more rounds to go. I hope that he gets at least one win in the next two rounds, because going winless for 5 or 6 rounds will be very difficult psychologically for Gukesh, because in the next tournament he plays, he'll kind of remember that I did not win anything in the last 6 rounds. So he if he wins in the next two rounds, I think he can carry that momentum forward in his next event. But yeah, obviously not the most ideal event for him, but this happens, like sometimes you have a very good year, and then sometimes you just struggle to get anything going. And I think this tournament has definitely not gone his way so far, but I think this draw was a pretty solid result. Let's quickly check just to see what's happening on Surya's board, and I think that Surya is completely winning. Yeah. So three Indians, all of them drew their game, but I think Surya will be the only one who will win his game, as he's up on exchange. He, I don't see how he can black can protect the pawn on d3. It's actually his move as well. So rook c2, and he can chop off this pawn. And after rook f2, maybe just try to double on the seventh rank to put pressure on the g7 pawn. So Surya having excellent winning chances here. 12.5 minutes for him, 6 minutes for Zhuzhiner. Surya, who has been um, a very big inspiration for many in Indian chess. He helped Vishy during his World Championship matches. There was also a movie that came out about Surya. He's an excellent author, has made a lot of courses on Chessable. Very strong player himself. He was 2650 in his peak, maybe even a bit more, and now is playing in the challengers section at Prague Masters. Yeah, and but by the way, Rook D3 is the only move for him to win this game. If he goes King G1, Knight F4, and Black gets very good drawing chances. So it's it's very important for him to take the pawn on D3 and double on the seventh rank. No, it's clear that no, it's not. I mean, no one is arguing that Gukesh is not playing is not playing. I mean, it's clear that Gukesh is not playing well. Um, but it's just that, I mean, it's clear that he's not playing well, but it's just that we are trying to also understand that it's normal for an athlete to go through a difficult period. You cannot always win tournaments. Like even with Usain Bolt, there was one Olympics where he did not win um, the gold medal, but the next Olympics he came and he won every single medal, like 100, 200, or like both the medals. So it's normal, for athletes to have a very good year and then sometimes you don't have a good year. So happens. Vincent's game. Yeah, maybe we can just quickly check Vincent's game actually. Wow, what's happening here? Crazy position. Vincent is playing against Antón Guijarro, and he's up a piece and these pawns are completely blocked. And also Antón has 45 seconds. So I don't think that Antón can save this game. I guess something like just bishop c5, trying to exchange these bishops. If you take, of course, there is a fork. We also have this e pawn. So I think slowly but surely Vincent should win this game. Yeah. And producer by, can you just check my message once? So we have 4 draws in the Masters group, and Vincent might be the only one who wins this game. Mhm. So Vincent close to winning here against Antón Guijarro. And then, by the way, Surya does find this. Wow, he does find that he needs to take the pawn on d3, rook f2, and rook b7. So if we go back to Surya's game right now, uh, I think he knows that he's winning this game. 5.5 minutes for Zhu. And let's just maybe see the next 1-2 moves to understand whether Surya is going to win this game for sure. Because if he manages to exchange a pair of rooks, he's going to win for sure. And Surya also gets up from his chair. I think he knows that he has a winning advantage. Or 5 minutes for Zhu Jinner. And you can see a young boy there who was kind of roaming around and looking at some of the games. I have to tell you, Prague is such a great tournament to be in. We were commenting there with Sagar the last year in person, and we had a very good time when Arvind won the tournament. Knight f4 played by Zhu. And I think now it's time to. Oh, what's the move here? Maybe rook d6 to put pressure on the f6 pawn. Is Surya back on his board? Not yet. So the point is that if you go rook d7, rook takes g2, and the rook protects the pawn. So you cannot do that. I guess you can play rook g3 to hit the pawn on g7, but then she goes back knight g6. So you need to find a concrete way to win this. And I guess it's rook d6. If you take on g2, we go rook d7 now because the rook cannot protect it. And if you take with the rook, rook takes f6 because the rook is pinned to the king. Knight f4, Surya comes back on his board. Let's see if he finds this. Knight f4. And he goes rook g3. Okay. So knight g6 back immediately played. And what? Oh, sorry. And what now? Ah, he can just take the pawn on a7, I guess. Yeah, he can just take the pawn on a7, and we basically have this two rooks, 3 pawns versus rook knight 3 pawns endgame, which I think should be winning for white. think this should be winning for Surya. Nine and a half minutes for him. This is an interesting end game. I think White still needs to be a bit accurate to win this. Let's see if Surya can manage. This clock is ticking down to 9 minutes now. And I think the way which we think is the best is to go rook, let's say c3, knight f4, and to go for this idea of rook c6 to kind of put pressure on the f6 pawn. Because if you go play something like knight h5, then rook c7 and g4 becomes the winning idea. And if you take on, I don't know, like g2 with the rook, rook f6, and e pawn becomes a passed pawn. So say rook f7. You can even go rook bf7. This is so nice. Because this is pinned and this is how white can win the game. But this sequence of going rook c3 and rook c6 is a bit difficult. It is a bit difficult actually. Let's see if he finds it. But yeah, I mean, I think the one big question that's on everyone's mind right now, and I think Fabi also talked about this in his interview yesterday in the American Cup, is the form of Gukesh, because he's going to have to play a World Championship match at the end of the year, right? So it's kind of important for him to be in good shape, because we saw that although Ding was the world champion when Gukesh was playing against him, everyone kind of knew that Gukesh is a favorite based on the form of Ding. Because in the best shape, obviously Ding is an extremely strong player and also he would have been a small favorite against Gukesh. But because he was in such a bad form, it was clear for everyone that Gukesh is going to be a favorite. Similarly, if Gukesh does not ramp up his form and his level to his peak, it will obviously be very challenging for him to hold the title. But the good thing is that he only needs to play one match, and the player who will challenge him needs to go through the candidates, and he still needs to go through that entire cycle, which is very difficult to win. Did he play? Not yet. Not yet. 6 minutes now for him. Six minutes for him. And no moves yet. Yeah, I think we will see. I think maybe we can end today's stream and come back tomorrow for the final two games. I think we might even get Soumya to join tomorrow, so I'm excited to commentate with her. But it was such an intense game today. I mean, we had this beautiful game by Arvind, who did not manage to win. There was a bit of a heartbreak for us. But then Gukesh kind of held a worse position. Divya drew, and I think very likely we are going to see Surya winning this game. So thanks a lot, everyone, for joining, tuning in. Producer Bhai for making it very easy for me to do this, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Ciao.